Welcome to this week's Anglers Channel Insider Podcast, brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Now here's your host, Chris Brown.
Welcome, folks, to this week's Anglers Channel Insider Podcast, brought to you by Ranger Boats, powered by Mercury Marine, shocked to life by Rely-On lithium batteries. I'm Chris Brown, along with, right now, director of, everything in the Anglers Channel world, Mr. David Zhang. And we're excited to welcome in, I'll go ahead and just flip the screen here, your inaugural winner from the National Professional Fishing League, Mr. John Soukup. John, I don't know how much you've been in front of a camera in the past, but dude, you killed it on live. At least the first 2 days. I was working day 3, but the first 2 days, you killed it, bro. That was awesome.
There was definitely some silence for me on day 3. I'll just promise you. I'm still exhausted. Everybody's like, it must be so exciting. And I'm like, to be honest with you, I was pretty dejected on day 3. I thought I did. I left the door wide open for those boys to come and embarrass me. And I just couldn't believe I won, to be honest with you. So I was just emotionally drained, man, from keeping my composure through the week, just like fighting, keeping your composure, and then just like, okay, I bombed, and then what? I won the same.
Well, let's talk about this. I mean, 20 pounds, 12 ounces on day 1 with a 5'11" kicker, 20 pounds, 2 ounces on day 3 with a 6'4" kicker. Day 3, like you said, opened the door, 12-11 on day 3. Did you have a limit on day 3, or was it just a couple of fish?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I probably caught 15, 20 keepers.
Okay.
The size was the issue on day 3. And I started noticing from day 1, 2, and 3, the fish were moving, and changing. I stuck with it. And I unfortunately, day 3, I had a limit for like 6 pounds early on.
Oh, wow.
And it went to like 7 pounds, and then 7.5, and then 8. And I can tell the longer version, but I had some guys come in on my spot and kind of push me off the spot that I caught him the day before. And, I had tons of other fish found, but that spot had kicked out 20 pounds the day before, including a 6. And then I could see more fish in there that were bigger, and it was a lot more active around this certain tree. And so that's where I told myself I was going to live to finish out that tournament. Well, anyways, long story short, I got back in there on noon, and those guys had left. They were there. They pushed me off around 8, and they stuck there about 4 hours on it. And I never really showed them where the juice was at. So when the boat was gone, I wasn't in there for 5 minutes, and I caught a 5.5 on day 3. And, I think that's up on the YouTube channel now, that day 3. That fish, I mean, it was the fish that, they all add up, right? I can't
right.
Go back and but that was the one on the final day that allowed me to jump and take the lead.
Well, 53 pounds, 9 ounces for the win, $50,000. Beat David Gaskin by just about a pound and a half. And then I'm looking back, I'm just looking at the deal. I know Luis Fernandez, who finished 5th, he made a pretty big run on day 2. But Landon Tucker, who didn't have a limit day 1, had issues. He made a pretty big run at you as well. But dude, let's go back to day 2. I want to say it was, because David and I were there for day 1. We watched the weigh-in, saw all the guys, saw you guys do the drive-through, and then and we'll get to that in a minute. But day 2, we were watching you on live because we were driving up to Smith Lake for the MLF event to kind of cover that. But you had about a 2-pounder on a jerkbait, and you said, I'm just going to click the bell and let it swim back down so I can catch the other one that's with it. Who does that in a tournament, John?
Don't we all do that? I thought that's what we do, right? Listen, I had a lot of fish found, a lot of fish found. And I had an old timer, if you will, a good friend of mine still tell me one time, John, he said, never pass fish to fish. And it's one of those sayings that I've kept with me when I'm fishing tournaments when I really don't know what fish to go to first.
Sure.
Really don't know. People will say, hey, where are you going? And I'm like, I really don't know. I'm just going to let my instincts kick in and on the way down. And as I was driving down, that saying was going through my head. So I was fishing south. So I started on the most northern fish on day one and just started working my way down south.
Okay.
Just jumping. I wouldn't pass fish to fish. I would go to fish and so day one, by the time I got down to what I'm going to call my island spot, where the sweet spot was at for the tournament, I already had a limit. I actually caught a 5 on a shaky head on day one. So I had already got up to around the 15-pound mark, and I pulled on the island spot and I caught a couple 2s there. Previously in practice, I caught a 3, and when I caught a 3, there was about 30 that came out with that 3 schooling. And it was the only spot in the lake that was like that I'd seen a school feeding frenzy. And so I'd always kept that in my mind. And the reason being also is because in practice, when I caught that fish, I was fishing a brush pile. I had already determined patterns and that brush pile was good, but I didn't see any fish on the graph. So I actually spent about 10 or 15 minutes messing with that brush pile. And when I finally got one to trigger, they all came out of that brush pile. So I say all this to say this: on day one, I ran the island spot and I never got a bite. So day 2 came around and I was working from the north-south again, but I was only hitting the stuff that was really good on day 1.
Sure.
I went ahead and stopped back on that island because of what I'd seen in practice, the schooling activity. And I pulled up to this, I had 0 fish, probably been an hour and a half or so in the day, I imagine. I don't know if we'd quite gone live yet. So right around that point, okay, so maybe we had gone live. So about an hour and a half into the day, I throw into this, the shallower of the brush piles that were there. And when I'm working my jerkbait back, a school of them come out, just like I'd seen in practice. And none of them hooked up. So they followed it all the way to the boat. And I turn around, I fire right back in the brush pile, and a smaller one comes up and eats the jerkbait. And that's the 2-pounder you're referring to. I had him on, and I knew he was kind of small. I saw him that he was small, but so I'm taking this information from practice that I had seen some schoolers chasing, bait, and then I had just seen him try to come out all in a wolf pack. So I already had that mentality that there was potential of, doubles going down.
Right.
And so when I got it to the boat, there was a bigger one slashing at it. And that's when you hear me say, I'm going to see if I can double up. So I lowered my rod and pressed my button. It seems like it took 5 seconds, but it probably was only a second.
Sure.
I lowered it down. The fish swam down. And when you do that, you give them just a little tension. You don't let them just go nuts, And that way you can kind of control. And it just, you felt it lock in. And I pulled into it. And, yeah, I mean, first catch of day 2 was a 4-pounder that tried to jerk that jerk. So I caught a 4 and a 1 3/4 pound Kentucky on the same cast.
Dude, we're driving down the road, and I looked at him and I said, "What he just say?" Because it was the highlights when we saw it, and I looked at David. I'm like, "What did he just say? What's he doing?" And all of a sudden, you see it go down, and you're like, "There he is!" And it's like a double, and I'm like, "Holy crap, dude's dialed in." I mean, obviously, you had it going on there, but I mean, that was an incredible deal. So, 5309 for the win. How does it feel to be the inaugural winner of this deal?
So I was asked by the production team day 3, like right before live went off at 1:00. I think I've lost the tournament. In my mind, I had 11 pounds in the boat. I had actually coaled up to about 12 and a half, but they were so minute coals
Sure.
that I wasn't paying no attention, that I was actually, added about 1.5 pounds more than what I thought. So they asked me what it would feel like to win the first event. And I might have said it out loud. But I thought it to myself, like, why are you asking me that? Like right now, like, you trying to embarrass me? What's going on? So, but this is my response. When I was, my first word was fish. I was raised around fish farm. We had koi farm. We had goldfish in the house. All I remember my dad ever doing was taking me to the creek and going crappie fishing and crappie docks and bass fishing.
Sure.
Wading ponds and creeks and things. When I was 4 years old, I told my mom I wanted to be a professional fisherman. I didn't know that there was, and so life went on, and I wasn't able to chase that opportunity until about 3 or 4 years ago when I was real, when we created the bass tank, and I actually went into the crappie tour first, and now I have this opportunity here in the bass world to win the very first inaugural event of the National Professional Fishing League. solidifies what I felt inside deep from day one that I can remember being alive, that I am a professional fisherman. And, this has been it's not just a dream. It's a part of who I felt like I am. So that's what that feels like to me. It's just I'm 39 years old. It's like a completion from day one of my life that it's come full circle, and there it is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. David, do you want to talk about baits?
Yeah. So with the again, I'm not as familiar with Eufaula as much, but I know some guys were fishing shallow. But what made you decide to stick with the jerkbait? Because I'm assuming you were targeting those fish that were moving up still. Am I correct with that?
Well, no, I wasn't. The answer is yes, but I also was catching them coming out.
Okay.
Like that the 5.5 pounder I caught on day 3. If you'll notice it, that thing was a 7-pound fish. I mean, it had a 7-pound head. His tail wasn't blooded anymore. He was as thin as can be. That thing had probably spawned 3 or 4 weeks prior or something.
Oh,
wow.
It was skinny. Now, I was positioning myself in staging areas, whether it was main lake staging, mid lake staging. And what I mean by mid lake is from the main river channel midway back into the creek arm, or fully, like literally the last brush pile on 3 or 4 foot of water within 50 feet of where they're going to move up and spawn. Like there were some spots, I had a brush piles probably within 20 feet of literally where some beds were at. You know what I mean? And so I was running those, and depending on how how the day went, the timing and things like that, I would potentially run 2 or 3 mid lake spots, and if I felt like they were moving and sliding, then I'd go shallower, and vice versa. So that's kind of how I did that. Now I settled in on the jerkbait. I had 13, 14 rods on the deck. Starting on day 1, I had big spinnerbait, little spinnerbait, swim bait, underspin, 3 or 4 jerkbaits, and really just a couple bottom baits, which probably is what I messed up on day 3. I should have gone to the bottom with a jig or big worm. I even said it on live probably 500 times, like those bottom guys are going to be catching them. I could see them down the bottom, but I was just stuck in a rut there. But I didn't catch them very good in practice. Every time I slowed down, I could get them to follow, but I couldn't get them to eat. So I felt like I needed something moving. In practice on spinnerbait, I did catch a couple really good ones, solid 4s. And so I knew that the spinnerbait was going to be a big fish bite. I just couldn't get them. They would follow it. They would follow it through the brush pile all the way. And by, I think day 3, I pretty much completely just left the spinnerbait in its box. And I stayed with the jerkbait because I had more control over leaving it in front of that fish's face. And so they were finicky. They were pressured. They were in a negative mood, 99% of them. They were scared. I think they were scared because the water was dropping. Wintertime, there had been 4-foot drought, so all the grass had died out.
Right.
They 2 weeks prior had a major cold front. I don't know how many decades. Those fish that were there had never seen a cold front like that in their lifetime.
No, it'd been a long time.
So they weren't in the mood. If you can imagine, now I'm using my sonar to be able to see this, but if you can imagine on a clear water lake that you're sight fishing, and you see a fish out 50 foot or whatever, and you're throwing a floating worm or something in front of them, and it lands a little close to them, and then that fish just goes and takes off.
Right.
They were doing that on live scope. I could see them doing that if I landed too close to them. And so that is, and that was including the fat ones, including the females that were still pregnant, full of eggs. So that just told me that with everything that was going on in the environment, these fish just hadn't fully understood what's going on. They were more focused on what was going on in their nature with the spawn than they were about caring about any kind of feed or anything like that. So
Sure. So at what point did you realize you won this thing? When Al called it out, or when they handed you a trophy, or did you know it before?
Well, I'm kind of one of those math guys. I've been doing the numbers since the time I loaded the boat. And, Chase came up to me, Woodard, the one that caught 23 pounds. He was actually the one I was the most scared of.
Right.
With him catching what he caught the day before. And he told me, congratulations, you caught him. I was like, man, I only got like 11 pounds. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, well, it's way better than me. I'm like, are you serious? So he's like, I don't want to excite you because that would be wrong, but you might have won this thing. So then I was doing the math. I was like, man, there's only like 3 or 4 guys that could possibly catch me. It was that Nick, and I don't want to butcher his name, but Provanicek or something of that nature.
Yeah, we'll call him Nick.
Yeah, Nick P with the Z, Nick P with a little Z.
Nick P with a little Z. There you go.
Yeah, and then the David Gaston, and of course Landon. Those were really the only ones that I was concerned for. And the reason I was concerned for Landon is he had a big old smile on his face, and he was fishing the same areas. I saw him 2 or 3 times, not on the same actual piles, but same areas. And he was fishing them right. I could tell. I was like, yep, and he was dragging. I already saw that in the tournament day. I was like, so I knew he had big. So when they did the math, I actually thought Landon jumped me, and then I realized that he hadn't. And so it was after Landon weighed in that I realized I had won. I knew the math was there.
That's too cool. Wire to wire. That's
from takeoff, man.
From takeoff. You boat won on day one, weren't you? Wow.
Yeah, that's all I know right now. 3 days in.
So boat 1 on day 1, boat 110 on day 2, and boat 1 again on day 3. So I bet did you have the same camera guy all 3 days?
No, I had an awesome guy named Todd the first 2 days, young guy from California, and dude, those camera guys are awesome. Like he was kind of a hype man, and you realize, I guess you don't think about it, but listen, man, that's their job. And wouldn't it be boring to go to your job and get nothing out of your day, like get nothing done because your guy's not catching fish? So it makes their day too. And then I had, a super professional named Phil on day 3. I know he does some of the elite stuff, the way he, in conversation that we talk. So my camera guys were 0 in the way, 0 frustration. For me, it is different. It's another challenge. I mean, I'll be honest, I had a camera guy 3 days.
Right.
I think I could probably catch them better without the camera, but for some reason, these little lures I got, they like to be on film. So bring the cameras, just put 2 of them in the boat. You know what I mean? So,
after 2 20-pound days with the same camera guy, I think I'd have paid somebody to have the same camera guy on day 3. I'm not superstitious. I'm a little bit stitious, but I'm saying I think I'd ask for the same guy. So
I'm medium stitious. Like that should have. I was kind of feeling the same way. Like that feels like, oh man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess up your vibe, but no, it worked out.
We with Anglers Channel, we do a lot of filming and we cover a lot of events, and so we do that. We'll put cameras on boats and GoPros, and I've got some guys who are like, nope, that's the devil. I don't want one. So I can imagine having a dude in the back with a big camera. That's got to be a little bit fun.
Well, man, I gotta brag a little bit, just a touch, okay?
Sure, have at it.
Man, I've been blessed so last year, 3 years ago, we started the Bass Tank. And then because the electronics world and the live scope in particular dominates so much in the crappie world, my sales rep, Zeke, and I actually started fishing a lot of the tour events together. And we fished the inaugural Wally Marshall Classic in 2019, and we actually finished 2nd place in that event. I think we won 18 or 20 grand or something of that. Maybe it was 30 grand. It might have been 30 grand. It was, it was a good chunk of change that we won at a crappie event. And it actually opened the door to all these sponsors and stuff like that because everybody wanted to be a part of the crappie scene. And so I took an evaluation of myself and my fishing career and my business, and we made a business decision. I mean, when I say we, like the whole team at the Bass Tank, my wife, everybody made a business decision. And instead of chasing my love, those little green fish that I love, they're so beautiful, I went crappie fishing last year. I fished both tours. I think we placed in the top 10 angler of the year, both of them. One of them might have been 4th or 5th. We didn't win any events, but we did finish in the top 10 on, I don't know, quite a few times. And I did that to promote us in the crappie world.
Sure.
Well, what happened when I made that decision was there was this opportunity to fish this national professional fishing league that was going to be, almost 2 years down the road. And I immediately knew it was that was for me. 100% knew it was for me. I've been a business owner. I have several businesses that I own and operate that don't really allow me to chase after the elites like I'd love to. Who wouldn't want to be on the elites? Right. And so, and then after chasing, making the business decision to chase the crappie, I could not, really put any time into the opens. Not to mention like the monster stacked field that was the opens last year.
Yeah.
So when I got invited to the National Professional Fishing League, man, it just 100% felt like, hey, I can put bass fishing on the back burner for 1 year, focus on the crappie, focus on pushing the tournament, the bass snake through the crappie tournaments, and then I'm going to kick it into bass gear. And so the last event, the Wally Marshall last year that was in the fall around October at Branson, as soon as we got home, I put the crappie rods up and I got the bass rods out. One of the reasons I got the bass rods out all winter long is because I feel very confident that I'm a 12-pound guy. I can catch 12 pounds on the toughest day. I can catch 12 pounds on the best day. When everybody else is smashing them, I'm your guy for 12 pounds.
There you go.
When everybody else is blanking, I got at least 11, and that's usually the ones that I win. But there's a problem with that because, it's cool for Angler of the Year points, but I knew that I had a hole there for closing deals, and you need weight, right? You got to have weight, and you can't it's cool to brag about I can catch fish no matter what, but it's also it's cooler to win, man. I mean, it is.
Sure.
So I spent all winter chasing big fish and trying to get myself in a big fish mentality, and we had Wired Fish come down. Jason Seelock and the boys came down, and we filmed for a week. Well, we filmed for 3 days straight in Oklahoma. Day one, first fish out of the box. It's on YouTube. You can follow it. I caught a 10.5 on camera. The next day, it's not gone public or announced yet, but I caught an 11.5 the next day, the last fish of the day.
Wow.
And then the third day, I caught 35 pounds or something like that. But we didn't have any monsters. There's all like 7s and 6s, but I think 30 pounds. But
no monsters. So,
then
David's from Wisconsin. He fished Gunnersville on Sunday and only caught 2s and 3s. So, yeah, he'd love to see a 6 or 7 right now.
I know, right?
Yeah. So there's some videos out there. I got a couple other really good ones on camera. Matter of fact, I'll tell you. So I went out with Lowrance and utilizing their active target. And actually, Lucas that works for Lowrance, him and I actually went to school together, and Zeke and I, we all went to high school together. And so we went out and played with it. And in the Lowrance boat with the Lowrance guy on camera, we caught like a 9 3/4. I caught a 9 3/4 pounder. And so that was awesome for Lowrance. We sell Lowrance as well. So, we have a real good friendship with them as well. So it was good for them. And then I got an invite from the Outdoor Oklahoma to go shoot a video. And I caught the largest bass in the last 40 years that's been recorded on camera. So, I don't know what it is about the camera, but like I said, my lures are liking it, and I'm loving it. So.
Well, David's going to book a flight to Oklahoma. I'm going to start driving to Oklahoma, and we'll catch up with you and see what we can catch, and we'll go from there. We got just a couple of minutes left before we've got to run. But talk about the NPFL. I mean, 18 months ago, this thing was brought into fruition, and then it's like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and they announce it, over a year out. And you guys apply, and they pick the anglers, and now you're sitting here with. I'll be honest with you. I know you said it's 2 foot wide. That thing looks like a freaking Hyundai Sonata behind you. It's huge.
We're gonna do a video where we weigh it and measure it, and so you guys stay tuned with that.
Make sure you tag us, and I want to see it. But talk a little bit about Al and the boys, Luke, Fat Cat, all that. I mean, just a little bit about the NPFL, because from what we saw watching live and being there on site, I've talked to Al numerous times and different guys from the trail over the course of the year getting to this point. Just talk just a little bit about, the NPFL, what it means to you. And of course, now that you've won this, I mean, obviously, dude, your name's in a record book forever as the inaugural winner of this deal. Talk about just real quick, just a little bit about the NPFL. So, well,
I'm going to set the trophy aside, and I'm going to tell you this answer would be the same whether I had this trophy right here or not. I fished everything from a 3-boat jackpot to the Forest Wood Cup to the highest crappie tournament that there is, and everything in between. I have never ever been to, besides at church, I've never been to an event where it felt like there was zero animosity or bitterness or negativity anywhere.
That's awesome.
And there was just a feeling, an emotion there of a jovial feeling, And then on top of that, hey, it's serious business, and we're going to all work together to build each other's career. And, Al, Brad, Michelle, Paul, I can't thank them enough. Like, they own their mistakes. Who does that in the professional bass fishing world? I'm sorry, it's out there. I'm not trying to pick on anybody else, but I mean, they say, hey, we made some flaws. We're going to fix these flaws. And I can just tell you, it gives me all the confidence in the world to trust them that I can go out and I can reach out for the limb and spend the extra time promoting my sponsors, promoting and honing my skills, because it's going to benefit me, because they're going to give me a platform to springboard off of.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be one of those platforms where, and I had this happen to me, Forest Wood Cup, I broke down, I called, and hey man, I broke down. They said, well, what kind of boat are you riding? What? I mean, that's a true story, Listen, and
I believe it.
I love bass fishing, and one of these days I may be over on some other trail, something that happened. I don't want to burn no bridges or something, but that's not the kind of stuff that we need in the industry.
Right.
And so, and not only that, but to give opportunities to someone like me who spent their last 39 years of their life trying to take care of the family and build business and have kids and still I love fishing, and I feel like I have a skill set, and so to be able to have an opportunity to showcase my sponsors who have backed me through all the times that I was, could not be on the national eye for them, and to give back to them, it's amazing, man. And Fat Cat, Luke, and David Dudley, everybody sees their persona and their personality when it comes to that they can turn it on and make you laugh and make you cry.
Oh, yeah.
They can hurt your feelings and make you laugh all at the same time. But what you don't see is when the cameras are off, Fat Cat's running out and helping every bass fisherman early in the morning get their GoPros running,
right.
They're doing the dirty work too, that I don't even think that's part of their contract. I think they're just doing it because they know that if the trail succeeds, they succeed. And so there's this camaraderie as of right now. Now, I'm sure 2 or 3, 4 events down the road, 3 years down the road, there's going to be some competitive spirits, some guys that are just, that just don't want to sit next to each other or whatever. But right now, man, I'm telling you, there's an excitement in the air, and I don't know if that comes across through the production side or not, because I haven't had the chance to, go back and watch any of that. But man, it's something special. Something special is happening.
Being there on Thursday for day one, you could tell that. I mean, you could tell it was something special. And I got a call yesterday from Al. And he called, and I sent him a text, to get your number. And he just called me and he said, dude, I'll send you John's number in just a second. He said, listen, I don't want accolades. I want to know what we've done wrong. What can we fix? What can we do? I've been in this industry 19 years. He's like, you've seen it. What can we do? And nobody calls you for that. Everybody wants to praise. Nobody calls for, to know what to fix, what to do better. And I told him, I said, dude, I'll talk to my guys. But after day one, they really stepped it up and things really got looking good from there, especially from the live standpoint. But dude, I thought you did an incredible job on camera. Obviously you did an incredible job, with the fish catching deal there. So extremely proud of you there. And dude, just an honor to have you on the show. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you guys. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to slide you out of here, dude, and we will talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll see you at Wright Patman. It would not surprise me if you don't book in with one of those later on this year. I'm going to go ahead and call it. All right. Hope you build a big mantle, because you're going to have, room on each end for one. I do believe so, but thanks so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See you, buddy. Well, David, there he is, John Soukup, your inaugural NPFL champ. And dude, what a cool guy. Excited to have him on the show. You were there. You were with me. We saw the first day weigh in and watched some of the live and stuff. What was your thoughts about the whole thing?
It was interesting again to see how fast they, I've been to weigh-ins, Elite Series, first day or two, some of those can feel like, I don't know, like it's like a day-long thing, but for them to bring over 100 some odd boats within 2 hours, I mean, I thought that was a pretty big accomplishment, because I figured it was going to be about 3 hours or more. So,
right.
But I thought that was very unique. And then, again, last week I mentioned that they've had a bunch of time that they had to get that stuff together. So I was hoping for a somewhat polished product, and I think they delivered on that. Having something that was, again, everyone's gonna have their hiccups, but I thought it was if I was a grade, I'll give it like a good, maybe not a letter grade, but I would say 83, 84 out of 100
Okay,
for the first shot.
I like it. I'm about 85, so we'll
Yep.
take it and we'll go from there. Of course, you're watching this video on our YouTube and our internet site. You can always chime in on the AC Insider Hotline, brought to you by XZone, 256-535-3217. Leave us a voicemail, shoot us a text. We'd love to hear from you. And make sure you tune in to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast to hear this interview and more right here on the Anglers Channel Insider Podcast.